You stayed, you were loyal, you worked hard, kept your promises, gave her your best years, and still one day she pulled away. Not in anger, not with words, just faded. Her laugh, her touch, her warmth, it all started to disappear, and you're left wondering, what did I miss? You gave her your loyalty, your time, your best years. You showed up every day, worked hard, provided, stayed faithful. You believed that was enough, that doing the right thing would lead to a strong, lasting love. And yet, somewhere along the line, something started to change. She seemed to drift. She grew colder, pulled away. Her eyes didn't look at you the same. She stopped laughing at your jokes. She stopped reaching for your hand in the dark. And you stood there trying to make sense of it all, wondering where it changed, what went wrong, and why love suddenly felt so far away. You didn't lie. You didn't cheat. You were still there, still showing up, still keeping your promise. But somehow it wasn't working anymore. If you're a man over 50, maybe divorced, maybe married, but feeling more like a roommate than a partner, you've likely asked yourself a question that echoes late at night. What did I miss? What changed? Why is she so distant? Here's what most men don't realize. It's not about doing more or being someone different. It's about seeing something we were never taught to see. There's one fundamental truth about women that goes unnoticed by most men their whole lives. But when you finally understand it, the puzzle pieces start to click into place. Her coldness, her silence, the way she turns away when you reach for her, it finally starts to make sense. Today, I want to share that truth with you. It's not a secret formula. It's not about learning how to win her back. It's not about games or manipulation. It's a new way of seeing her, a shift in how you understand love, connection, and what she truly needs from you, not in theory, but in practice. When this clicks, you won't just feel more clear. You'll feel more confident, more grounded, more capable of creating the connection you've been wanting all along. So stay with me, because by the time we reach the end of this video, you'll never look at love or women the same way again. I grew up on military bases, and if you know anything about that lifestyle, you know it shapes you in quiet, permanent ways. You learn how to move often, how to adapt, how to survive in unfamiliar places. But most of all, you learn about loyalty, not in the way people talk about it now. It wasn't about social media or flashy promises. It was in the way you showed up for the people who mattered. You didn't have to say it, you just did it. Because your word, your presence, your willingness to stand with someone when things got tough, that was everything. My best friend back then was Mike. We met when I was a kid, and somehow we kept ending up stationed in the same places. We got into all kinds of trouble, like kids do, but no matter what happened, we never turned our backs on each other. We always had each other's backs. If one of us got caught doing something stupid, the other wouldn't talk. If one of us needed help, we were there before he even had to ask. That was just the code we lived by. No questions, no conditions. You cover for your brother. You protect what you care about, and we carry that into manhood. That same instinct to protect, to stay loyal, to never leave your post. It's in our bones. When a man falls in love, especially when he makes a commitment, he does it with that same mindset. He's not playing games. He doesn't think in maybes. He thinks, this is it, I'm all in. He takes on the role of protector, provider, rock. And when he says, I do, what he really means is, I'm yours, forever. So naturally, we assume the woman we love sees it the same way. That she'll stand by us just like we stood by our childhood friends. That her commitment is just as deep, just as permanent, and that as long as we keep doing our part, staying faithful, showing up, working hard, the relationship will stay strong. But what happens when one day she changes? Not overnight, but slowly. Her smile fades. Her laughter feels distant. She starts pulling away emotionally, and we're left confused. Because we haven't done anything wrong. We're still there. still loyal, still keeping our word, but something isn't right. Something has shifted, and that's where so many good men start to lose their footing, because they don't realize that the rules of brotherhood, of male loyalty, don't fully translate in the world of love and intimacy with a woman. There's something deeper going on, something most of us were never taught to see. When we finally meet the one, the woman who makes our heart beat just a little harder, who understands us in ways we thought nobody could, who somehow sees straight through the mask we've worn our whole lives, we carry that same internal code into love, that code we learned as boys: loyalty, honor, commitment without question. We think that by choosing her, really choosing her, that means the work is done. We made the decision. We found the one. Now we settle in. Now we build a life, and when we say the vows, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, for as long as we both shall live, we mean them. Not just in ceremony, but in spirit. We look at commitment as something solid, steady, something that doesn't move. We believe that once we give it, it stays. Once we love, we keep loving. That our loyalty is the proof of our love, so we expect the same in return. That she sees commitment like we do. That she enters the relationship with the same understanding. When things get hard, you stay. When it's not exciting anymore, you hold the line. You don't leave, you dig deeper. You hold your partner up. But here's the quiet truth that most men don't hear until it's too late. Women don't enter commitment from the exact same emotional space. For us, love is often an act of will. We decide. For her, love is an act of feeling. It must be nourished, felt, experienced in real time, not in memory, not in theory. In the present moment. That's why we can be standing right there, thinking everything's fine, because we haven't changed a thing. We're still loyal, still working, still faithful. But she looks at us and says, "I don't feel close to you anymore." And we're blindsided, because we didn't do anything wrong. We stayed. But what we didn't realize is that presence matters more than permanence. She's not asking, "Did you stay?" She's asking, "Do you see me now? Do you feel me now? Do you still reach for me emotionally?" When that presence fades, even if our actions are still right, the relationship begins to feel hollow to her. Not because she's ungrateful, not because she's unstable, but because the emotional connection is the very oxygen of her love. And when that starts to run out, everything else begins to wilt. So when she gets quiet or irritated or distant, most men take it personally. They feel confused, hurt, sometimes even betrayed. But what if she's not pulling away as a rejection, but as a reaction? What if she's not changing at all? What if she's simply responding to something we didn't even know was missing? Not to cruelty, not to neglect, but to emotional silence. That unspoken distance that grows when two people think they're connected because they share a home, a bed, a calendar, but not their hearts. And the hardest part of all, most men don't even see it happening until it feels like it's too far gone. I grew up on military bases, and if you know anything about that lifestyle, you know it shapes you in quiet, permanent ways. You learn how to move often, how to adapt, how to survive in unfamiliar places. But most of all, you learn about loyalty. Not in the way people talk about it now. It wasn't about social media or flashy promises. It was in the way you showed up for the people who mattered. You didn't have to say it. You just did it. Because your word, your presence, your willingness to stand with someone when things got tough, that was everything. My best friend back then was Mike. We met when I was a kid, and somehow we kept ending up stationed in the same places. We got into all kinds of trouble like kids do, but no matter what happened, we never turned our backs on each other. We always had each other's backs. If one of us got caught doing something stupid, the other wouldn't talk. If one of us needed help, we were there before he even had to ask. That was just the code we lived by. No questions, no conditions. You cover for your brother. You protect what you care about, and we carry that into manhood. that same instinct to protect, to stay loyal, to never leave your post. It's in our bones. When a man falls in love, especially when he makes a commitment, he does it with that same mindset. He's not playing games, he doesn't think in maybes, he thinks, this is it, I'm all in. He takes on the role of protector, provider, rock, and when he says, I do, what he really means is, I'm yours, forever. So naturally, we assume the woman we love sees it the same way, that she'll stand by us just like we stood by our childhood friends, that her commitment is just as deep, just as permanent, and that as long as we keep doing our part, staying, faithful, showing up, working hard, the relationship will stay strong. But what happens when one day she changes? Not overnight, but slowly. Her smile fades. Her laughter feels distant. She starts pulling away emotionally. And we're left, confused. Because we haven't done anything wrong. We're still there, still loyal, still keeping our word. But something isn't right. Something has shifted. And that's where so many good men start to lose their footing, because they don't realize that the rules of brotherhood, of male loyalty, don't fully translate in the world of love and intimacy with a woman. There's something deeper going on, something most of us were never taught to see. Here's where things start to unravel, not with yelling or betrayal or some dramatic moment, but with something far quieter. One day you notice she isn't laughing at your jokes the way she used to. You go to hold her hand, and she doesn't reach back. You're lying next to her, maybe even sharing a bed, but somehow she feels 1,000 miles away. You can't quite put your finger on when it started, because there wasn't a specific fight or a turning point. It just faded, and you're left asking yourself what changed. The truth is, it rarely happens all at once. It's slow, almost invisible, like a small leak that goes unnoticed until there's water damage in the walls. Most men don't see the disconnect until it's already deep. That's because we tend to feel safe in routine. We think that as long as we're doing the responsible things, bringing home a paycheck, helping out around the house, staying faithful, that means we're being good partners. That should be enough. For us, love is proven by action, by duty. We equate love with doing. But for many women, love is felt through emotional closeness. It's not what you do, it's how present you are. It's not about being in the room, it's about being in the moment with her. She notices when you're physically next to her, but mentally somewhere else. She feels it when your touch lacks the tenderness it once had. And when life gets busy, when you're tired or stressed, when you're wrapped up in work or responsibilities, you might think you're protecting her by keeping it all on your shoulders. But from her point of view, you're disappearing. So she starts saying things, subtle at first. We don't talk like we used to. I miss how close we were. Do you even notice me anymore? And we don't know how to respond, because in our minds everything's fine. We haven't changed, we're still here, still doing the things we've always done. So we say, it's fine, we're okay, don't worry. But in her heart, she's starting to mourn something that isn't quite gone, but doesn't feel alive either. The emotional thread between you is loosening, not because of betrayal, but because of absence. And not absence of body, but of connection. That's the most painful part. You haven't failed her in the ways the world defines failure. You haven't lied or cheated or abandoned her. You've stayed loyal, but she still feels alone. And here's what happens when a woman feels alone long enough. She starts to close off. First, she asks less. Then she talks less. Then she touches less. And eventually, she reaches a place where she stops expecting anything at all. When she pulls away for good, it seems sudden, but it never is. It's been coming for a long time, quietly, silently, until she couldn't take the emptiness anymore. This is the disconnect, and unless you see it, unless you do something about it, it can slowly and silently end a relationship that once felt full of love. This is the part most men never get taught, and yet it holds the power to shift everything. It's the moment where confusion starts to clear. Here's the key. A woman is not a machine, a checkbox or a to-do list. She isn't something you win once and then maintain with routine. A woman is a response. She mirrors what she feels. Her emotional world is constantly adjusting to the environment of your relationship. And the way you show up today, not yesterday, not a year ago, but today, plays a huge part in how she experiences love. She is like water. She moves, flows, reacts. Her heart is sensitive, tuned in to what's happening between you even when nothing's being said out loud. If the energy is warm, present, open, she softens, she reaches for you. But if the room goes cold, if you start to go quiet or drift emotionally, she feels it immediately. Not because she's overthinking, but because she's wired that way. And if you expect her to stay the same just because you haven't left, you're misunderstanding the entire foundation of how she connects. For men, love is often a decision. You make it, you commit to it, you honor it. But for women, love must be felt regularly, deeply, not once, but over and over again. It's not enough to say you love her. She needs to feel loved, not through big gestures or expensive gifts, but in small ways. The way you look at her, the way you listen, the way you show her she matters. It doesn't mean she's unstable or needy. It means she's alive and in tune, and when the connection is strong, she blossoms. She becomes more affectionate, more open, more giving. But when the connection fades, she starts to close, slowly, quietly, not out of anger, but out of protection. Because she needs presence. Just like a plant needs sunlight, she needs your emotional attention, and that's where most men get stuck. We take her pulling away as an insult. We think she's ungrateful, or that she just wants too much. But really, she's reacting to the invisible emotional space between you. Just like weather changes with the season, her heart changes in response to how connected she feels to you. And when you get that, truly get it, everything starts to change. You stop fighting her nature. You start working with it. You become more aware, more responsive, more intentional. You realize she isn't pulling away to hurt you. She's pulling away because she doesn't feel seen. And the best part, you can fix that. Not with perfection, not with pressure, but with presence. It's not too late. And from here on out, everything, your connection, your intimacy, your peace, can begin to shift. All it takes is the decision to see her not as a mystery, but as someone who responds to the emotional world you share. When you start tuning into that, she starts tuning back into you. So here you are, maybe thinking back on the years, wondering how the connection faded when it got so quiet between you. Or maybe you're still in the thick of it, married, living side by side, but feeling like two people walking different roads. Or maybe you're alone now, not because you wanted to be, but because somewhere along the line, something went missing and you didn't know how to find it again. Regardless of where you are, the question remains, how do you reconnect with her? How do you bring the spark back? Or if you haven't lost it yet, how do you protect it? The truth is, the answer isn't about trying harder. It's not about being perfect or becoming someone else. You don't need to bend over backwards or walk on eggshells. What she wants, what she's always wanted, is for you to be emotionally present, to be there with her, not just beside her, to not just go through the motions, but to really feel with her. That's it. That's the secret that no one told you growing up, that it's the small things that make the biggest difference. Asking how her day really was, noticing her body language, her tone, the way she's carrying something and saying nothing, holding her hand without a reason, sitting with her even in silence and just being there. That's where the real connection is. It's built in these moments that seem small but speak loudly. And the beauty of it, when she feels seen, she softens. When she feels heard, she opens. When she feels safe in your presence, she begins to offer more love than you thought possible. Because that's who she is, when she feels secure, generous, affectionate, alive. That's what most men were never taught. But now you know. You understand that love isn't just about staying. It's about showing up with your heart open. So, now ask yourself, not just am I loyal, but am I present? Does she feel me, really feel me, here in this moment? Because when you shift from just showing up to fully connecting, something remarkable starts to happen. The distance shrinks, the silence fades, the warmth returns, and the love that may have felt buried starts to bloom again. If this message landed in your heart, if it helped you see something clearer, drop the word understanding in the comments. I read every single one, and I'd love to know if this meant something to you. And if you're still watching, that tells me something about you. You're not the kind of man who runs away. You're the kind that leans in, learns, and grows. And that right there, that spirit, is what makes all the difference. Let's keep walking this road of understanding together. Until next time.